For so many women, the word self-care comes with baggage. It feels like something you have to earn at the end of an exhausting day or squeeze into the cracks of a busy week. It's painted as indulgence, a spa day, a massage, a long bubble bath with candles and quiet music. And while there's nothing wrong with any of those things, they're not the full picture. If you treat self-care as a once-in-a-while treat, you're missing its real power. The truth is, self-care is not selfish, it's strategy. It is the architecture of a life you don't need to escape from, the very foundation that lets you thrive in every role you play, from leader to partner to mother to friend. Think about it this way: you cannot operate at your best when your energy is leaking out in all directions, when your boundaries are flimsy, and when your body and mind are running on fumes. Every time you tell yourself, "I don't have time to rest," what you're really saying is, "I don't value my performance enough to protect it." Because here's the truth. High performance, resilience, creativity, and even love all require energy. And energy doesn't just appear. It's generated by how you take care of yourself. For women, the conditioning runs deep. We've been told for generations that our worth is measured in how much we give, how much we sacrifice, how much we endure, that the highest badge of honor is being selfless, tireless, endlessly available. But here's the problem. When you operate like that, you eventually burn out. And when you burn out, you're no good to anyone, not your career, not your family, not even yourself. This is why reframing self-care as a strategic act is so revolutionary. It flips the script from "I'm doing this for me, but I feel guilty," to "I'm doing this for me so I can be unstoppable in everything I touch." Let's talk about strategy. Strategy means intentional planning. It means setting priorities that align with your values and your long-term goals. When you integrate self-care as strategy, you stop waiting for crisis moments, like the migraine that knocks you out or the stress breakdown that leaves you crying in the bathroom. And instead, you build systems that prevent those crashes from happening in the first place. Just like a company invests in infrastructure so it can grow sustainably, you invest in yourself so you can live sustainably. Now, here's the part nobody tells you. Strategic self-care is often invisible to the outside world. It's not glamorous. It's choosing to go to bed at 10 p.m. instead of staying up scrolling. It's saying no to that social obligation because your body is telling you it needs rest. It's making space for a 10-minute walk in the middle of the day instead of plowing through lunch at your desk. These moments don't look like much, but they compound. Over weeks and months, they build resilience, sharpen focus, and create emotional steadiness that no quick-fix self-indulgence can match. And let's address the guilt. Women often feel guilty when they prioritize themselves. You hear the little voice whisper, "You should be doing more. You're being lazy. You're letting someone down." That guilt is not the truth. It's conditioning. The strategy here is to override that voice with a new narrative. I am protecting my energy so I can show up with power. I am choosing sustainability over burnout. I am building a life that works, not just a day that looks productive. When you start practicing that reframing, the guilt starts to loosen its grip. Another piece of strategy is boundaries. Boundaries are one of the purest forms of self-care, and they are not about keeping people out. They're about keeping your energy intact. Think about how often you say yes when you want to say no. How many times you've agreed to things that left you drained, resentful, or spread too thin. That's not strategy. That's survival mode. Strategic self-care means drawing clear lines. This is what I can give. This is what I can't. And this is how I protect my time. When you practice this consistently, something incredible happens. People start to respect your boundaries because you respect them first. Physical self-care also shifts when it's treated as strategy. It's not about obsessing over appearance. It's about fueling your body to be a powerhouse. Hydration, movement, nourishment, sleep. These are your tactical moves. They are not optional. They are not extras. They are the non-negotiable investments you make in your ability to think clearly, make decisions, regulate emotions, and hold space for others. If you want to lead a business, a family, or even just your own dreams, you need the stamina to carry them. That stamina is built in the everyday choices of how you care for yourself. Then there's mental self-care. This is about tending to your inner landscape. Strategy here looks like building rituals that calm your nervous system and keep your mindset sharp. Journaling to process stress, meditation to reset your focus, even just taking 5 deep breaths before you walk into a meeting. These are not luxuries. They are tools for performance. The same way an athlete stretches before competing, you prepare your mind to handle the pressure and the weight of your responsibilities. Emotional self-care also fits into this framework. Women are often expected to hold everyone else's emotions, to be the container for other people's stress, fears, and disappointments. But without emotional strategy, you end up carrying weights that don't belong to you. Strategic self-care here means learning to discern what is yours to carry and what you need to release. It means surrounding yourself with people who fuel you, not drain you. It means asking for help when you need it and refusing to apologize for needing support. That is not weakness, it's wisdom. Here's the thing. When you treat self-care as strategy, it changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who has to prove her worth by grinding herself into the ground, and instead, you see yourself as someone who deserves to operate at her highest level. You claim authority over your life. You take the steering wheel instead of being dragged by obligations and expectations. Imagine a woman who prioritizes self-care as strategy. She wakes up with clarity because she rested well. She nourishes her body so her mind is sharp. She has the stamina to handle challenges without collapsing. She says no when something doesn't align with her priorities, and she says yes with full energy when it does. She is not running on fumes. She is not begging for scraps of rest. She is not apologizing for protecting her energy. That woman is not selfish. That woman is powerful. And the foundation of her power is strategy disguised as self-care. When we talk about transformation, most people imagine some massive, sweeping shift. They picture quitting their job overnight, moving to another country, starting a brand new routine, or reinventing themselves in one bold, dramatic move. And yes, those big changes can be inspiring, but here's the reality. They rarely stick. The human brain is wired to resist sudden disruption. If your plan for transformation requires you to flip your life upside down in a single move, it almost always ends in frustration, exhaustion, and disappointment. The truth is that lasting transformation doesn't happen through dramatic leaps. It happens through small, consistent daily habits that compound over time until your entire life feels different. The power of small daily habits lies in their accessibility. They're not overwhelming. They don't demand that you have a perfect plan, unlimited willpower, or hours of free time. They simply ask for consistency. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't debate every morning whether it's worth it. You don't wait until you have enough time. You just do it because it's part of who you are. That's the level of normalcy and identity that powerful self-care habits need to reach. When a habit becomes so integrated that you don't negotiate with yourself about it, that's when real change begins. Here's what makes small habits so transformative. They stack. One simple habit, say drinking a full glass of water when you wake up, might seem insignificant. But that one act triggers hydration, improves your energy, and primes your body to function better throughout the day. Over time, that energy leads you to move more, think more clearly, and maybe even make better food choices. This ripple effect is the secret of small habits. They are catalysts that quietly upgrade every other part of your life. And yet, because small habits don't feel flashy, we often underestimate them. We crave the drama of a total reset. We think if it doesn't feel extreme, it doesn't count. But if you look closely at people who've achieved true transformation, you'll find they are masters of the mundane. They don't do something once in a while with great intensity. They do something every single day with quiet consistency. That's what builds strength, resilience, and results that last. Let's take an example. Imagine a woman who wants more energy. She could try to overhaul her diet in one dramatic move, cutting out everything at once, counting every calorie, and signing up for an intense workout program. That approach may work for a few days, but soon it becomes overwhelming. The energy it requires to maintain such a drastic change often backfires, leaving her exhausted, frustrated, and tempted to give up. Now imagine instead that she starts with one tiny habit. She swaps her afternoon soda for water. That's it. Over time, this one shift reduces her sugar intake, stabilizes her energy, and improves her hydration. Encouraged by the difference, she naturally begins adding another habit, maybe walking for 10 minutes after dinner. Then, weeks later, she decides to go to bed 30 minutes earlier. Each habit by itself looks small, but together they create a completely different energy landscape. Small habits also train your brain to trust yourself again. One of the most damaging cycles many women fall into is setting huge, unsustainable goals and then breaking the promises they make to themselves. Every time you do that, you erode your own trust. You start to believe you're someone who can't follow through. But when you focus on tiny habits, you create wins. You say, I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes every morning, and then you do it. The act might be small, but the impact on your identity is massive. Each tiny win rebuilds your self-trust until one day you wake up believing, I am someone who shows up for myself. That belief is priceless, and it is built one habit at a time. Another secret of small habits is that they bypass perfectionism. When you aim for huge changes, the stakes feel high. If you miss a workout or eat one thing outside your plan, you feel like you failed. So you give up altogether. Small habits, on the other hand, are forgiving. If your habit is to journal for 5 minutes before bed and you miss one night, it's easy to pick it up again the next day. There's no all or nothing pressure. This flexibility keeps momentum alive, which is what really matters in the long run. And momentum is everything. Small habits create a sense of progress, and progress fuels motivation. When you see yourself moving forward, even in tiny increments, you want to keep going. This is why habits are so much more powerful than willpower. Willpower fades. It gets tired. Habits, once established, run on autopilot. They carry you forward even on the days you don't feel like showing up. That's the kind of system that makes transformation inevitable, not just possible. Think about the habits that build confidence. Confidence doesn't come from one massive achievement. It comes from 100 small acts of courage stacked together. The same is true for self-care. Your nervous system doesn't regulate itself because you went on a week-long retreat. It regulates because you breathe deeply every morning, because you take a short walk every afternoon, because you practice saying no when something doesn't align with your priorities. These micro actions teach your body and mind what safety, balance, and strength feel like. Over time, they rewire your baseline state, and suddenly you're living a different life, not because of one big leap, but because of hundreds of small steps. The beauty of this approach is that it fits into real life. You don't have to quit your job, hire a coach, or buy expensive tools. You can start right where you are, with what you have, in the time you've got. Transformation doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for repetition. If you repeat the right small habits enough times, they will shape your energy, your mindset, and your results. This is why habits like gratitude journaling, daily movement, mindful breathing, setting boundaries, or even drinking water are not trivial. They are foundational. They may not impress anyone on Instagram, but they will impress you when you notice how much calmer, stronger, and more capable you feel 6 months from now. Small habits don't scream for attention. They whisper change into your life quietly, consistently, and powerfully. What's also important is that small habits anchor you when life gets chaotic. Big, dramatic changes collapse under stress. If your entire identity is tied to an extreme diet or a rigid program, one life curveball can throw you completely off track. But if your habits are small and woven into your daily routine, they hold steady even when life feels messy. No matter how chaotic the day is, you can still take 3 deep breaths, you can still drink your water, you can still take a 10-minute walk. That consistency creates a sense of stability, which is one of the most grounding forms of self-care. And when you string these habits together, something subtle but profound happens. You shift from reacting to life to directing it. You're not waiting for the next big change to save you. You're building the change yourself, brick by brick, habit by habit. That sense of ownership is where true empowerment lives. You no longer feel at the mercy of circumstances because you know your habits are creating your future. This is why small daily habits will always beat big dramatic changes. They are sustainable, they are forgiving, they are powerful, and they reshape your life in ways that no single grand gesture ever could. When most people think about self-care, they immediately picture external rituals, the skincare routine, the yoga class, the weekend retreat. While those things can absolutely be supportive, they don't touch the deepest level of transformation. Real self-care is not just about what you do. It's about who you choose to be. It's about alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, actions, and values are aligned, you step into a version of yourself that doesn't just survive the day, but actually thrives. This is empowerment through alignment, and it's the kind of empowerment that shifts not only how you feel about yourself, but how you show up in every corner of your life. Alignment begins with clarity. You cannot live in alignment if you don't know what you truly value. Too many women spend their lives chasing someone else's definition of success, trying to meet expectations that were handed to them rather than chosen by them. Maybe it's the expectation to be the perfect mother, the high-achieving career woman, the partner who always has it together, or the friend who never says no. When your life is dictated by other people's scripts, you are constantly out of alignment with yourself. And that misalignment breeds frustration, burnout, and even resentment. Empowerment begins the moment you pause long enough to ask, what actually matters to me? What kind of life do I want to build? Who do I want to become? Once you identify your values, self-care takes on a new meaning. It's no longer just about what feels good in the moment. It's about what keeps you in alignment with those values. If you value health, then moving your body and nourishing it isn't a punishment. It's a declaration of who you are. If you value growth, then taking time to read, learn, or stretch your comfort zone isn't optional. It's essential. If you value peace, then protecting your boundaries, reducing noise, and creating calm environments isn't indulgent. It's integrity. Alignment turns self-care into a compass rather than a checklist. It gives your habits and routines a deeper sense of purpose, which makes them easier to maintain because they're not just tasks, they're part of your identity. Another layer of alignment is between your inner and outer world. So many women live in contradiction. On the inside, they are exhausted, overwhelmed, or silently screaming for a break. On the outside, they plaster on a smile, say yes to everything, and pretend everything is fine. That gap between how you feel and how you present yourself is one of the fastest routes to disempowerment. You lose yourself in the performance, and the longer you stay in that role, the harder it becomes to even recognize your own needs. Empowerment comes from closing that gap, from daring to let your outer world reflect your inner truth. That might mean admitting you need rest instead of powering through. It might mean telling someone you're not okay instead of faking a smile. It might mean saying no when you want to say no, even if people don't understand. The alignment between inner honesty and outer expression is one of the most radical forms of self-care. Alignment also shows up in the body. Your body is constantly giving you signals about what it needs, but most of us have been trained to ignore them. We override hunger cues with diets. We push through exhaustion with caffeine. We silence stress with distractions. That disconnection creates misalignment between your body and your choices. Strategic self-care here is about relearning how to listen. When your body says it's tired, you rest. When it craves movement, you give it energy. When it needs stillness, you don't drown it out with noise. The more aligned you are with your body's cues, the more powerful and resilient you become, because you're no longer fighting against yourself. You're working with yourself. Emotional alignment is just as crucial. Women are often taught to minimize their emotions, to be easygoing, to not rock the boat. But ignoring emotions doesn't erase them. It only buries them deeper, where they grow heavier and more disruptive. Empowerment through alignment means letting yourself feel what you feel without shame. It means allowing anger, sadness, joy, or fear to exist without labeling them as weaknesses. When you honor your emotions instead of suppressing them, you can process them in healthy ways and prevent them from controlling you in unhealthy ones. That is alignment in action. Your emotional truth guiding your choices instead of hiding in the shadows. There's also alignment in boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges. They connect you to yourself first so you can connect to others in a healthier way. When your boundaries are unclear, you give away your time, energy, and attention to things that don't match your values. That creates misalignment and leaves you feeling drained and resentful. But when you are clear about what you will and won't allow, you align your life with what matters most. You stop scattering yourself across obligations that don't serve you and start investing your energy in the places where it multiplies. Boundaries are a profound act of alignment because they are you declaring, "This is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is how I choose to live." What alignment really does is create coherence. It eliminates the friction that comes from living out of sync with yourself. When you are aligned, you don't waste energy pretending, compensating, or chasing things that don't matter. You conserve that energy for growth, creativity, love, and impact. You stop being pulled in 100 directions and instead move forward with focus and clarity. That's why aligned women feel powerful, because they are no longer leaking energy into roles and expectations that don't belong to them. They channel their energy into what truly lights them up, and that radiance is magnetic. And here's the truth. Alignment isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. There will always be moments when you drift out of alignment, when you say yes to something you didn't want, when you ignore your body's signals, when you silence your feelings. The empowerment lies in noticing the drift sooner, course correcting quicker, and bringing yourself back to center with compassion. Alignment is not a destination, it's a daily practice, a choice you make over and over again. When you practice alignment long enough, something extraordinary happens. Your life starts to match who you are on the inside. Your relationships shift, your work evolves, your routines transform, not because you forced them to, but because you've stopped living out of sync. You attract opportunities, people, and experiences that resonate with your truth because you're no longer hiding it. You become the kind of woman whose presence speaks louder than her words, because everything about her, her energy, her choices, her boundaries, her habits, flows from the same source. That kind of coherence is what empowerment really looks like. It's not loud, it's not performative, it's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about finally being aligned enough to trust yourself fully and to live in a way that honors who you are at your core.